It is another wonderful time on television, and thanks for joining us the way you always do every Monday afternoon on the program Africa Discourse. My name is Evan Sunokugie. Today on the show, we are going to be looking at human rights issues, and of course, let's trail the development of human rights on the continent of Africa. Let's see the struggles, when it started, how it started, and the position it is now, and the various prospects that lies in human rights activism in Africa. Well, to discuss all this this afternoon, we're so privileged to have a foremost human rights activist and, of course, former chairman, Committee of Human Rights, Edo State, and also a serial author, a conflict resolution expert, international conflict resolution expert, Nowita Igbotako. So, welcome to the program, Africa Discourse.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here once again.
Yeah, so many ways to look at human rights activism in Africa now, and some countries are still, battling, even if they may be scoring some laurels in terms of political prowess and all that. But when it comes to human rights issues, it's almost a no-go area. Somewhere like Rwanda, people will easily point at Rwanda, there's no good record, human rights record in Rwanda. But again, we understand that Paul Kagame has also been trying to set the record straight. But Nowita Igbotako, help us to understand this afternoon, where can we trace, human rights activism to in Africa? When can we say it started in Africa?
We cannot say it started in Africa because it's a global issue. Human rights became a thing at the United Nations after the horrors of the Second World War, after Hitlerism, Tojoism, fascism. When I say Tojoism, the madness that came from Japan. When I say fascism, the Benito Mussolini madness in Italy. When you say Nazism, Adolf Hitler madness. Those are the three axes that took on the whole world and unflagged the Second World War. The Allied powers, United States, then Russia, Great Britain, they have to come together to defeat, they call it the axis of evil. They call it the axis of evil. Fascism, Nazism, Tojoism. Tojoism was got it for the world Emperor Tojo. He was the emperor of Japan that time. You know, Japan was a factor during the Second World War. America had to drop the atomic bomb.
The Hiroshima,
Nagasaki. Nagasaki. Before Japan was subdued forever. Before Japan changed their international policies. Today, Japan doesn't have a standing army. Let's not go there yet. So what happened? Because after the horrors of Second World War, the nation have to gather. The Second World War led to the collapse of the League of Nations. After the League of Nations, you have the United Nations Organization. So there was the urgent need to create a global organization. And at the center of creating a global organization was issue of human rights. And we must credit the lives of one of the greatest presidents that's ever walked on the sand of humanity, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. One of the greatest American presidents. Those are the presidents that stood, that laid the foundation of the United Nations Organization. We talk of Joseph Stalin, of Italy, of Russia, the then Soviet Union. These are leaders, these are the victorious allies that emerged from the Second World War. So they met at the Yalta Conference in 1945 and decided that there must be a United Nations Organization. So one of the clauses, one of the things that came out was the need for a human rights council. So we have intergovernmental councils of human rights. The which nations are elected periodically to manage the issue of human rights globally. So human rights became a thing because of the horror, as I said earlier, because of the devastation, because of the pogrom, because of the insanity that was inflicted on humanity. What leaders came? They said, never again. They were sorry for the death of the League of Nations. They came out with United Nations organizations. So that's where the issue of human rights became about. I'm one of the greatest architects that ensured the United Nations Human Rights Council became a thing was the wife of the former president of the United States, Eleanor Roosevelt. Fantastic human rights activist. She was the brain, she was the spirit, she was the soul behind United States Human Rights Council. So we are talking about human rights originated globally, not from Africa.
So we cannot really pinpoint when it started in Africa.
Yeah. Okay. So, after 1945, there was no African nation, so to say.
It was the United Nations.
It was the United Nations, and most African nations, they were under colonialism and what have you. It was 1960, 1957, 58, 59, 60 that African countries started coming from the shackles of colonialism. Ghana got independent in 1957. Nigeria in 1960. Most of those countries, 60, 59, Ghana. So when human rights became a thing, there was no African countries. African countries were non-existent. But now it's unfortunate that those who are more abusing human rights, they are a chunk of them, they are from Africa.
Yeah.
You have dictators who have become totalitarian. Dictators who have no recourse for human rights. You don't mention Kagame. Kagame, fantastic leader, but human rights is zero. He's trying to make amends.
Okay, we'll come to that because for most people, they find it difficult to
understand. It's a fantastic, he has brought a torchlight.
But how can you be a fantastic leader when you have...
But the guy simply did not want opposition. He's a draconian leader.
So is that why he has a very bad human rights record?
His record is so bad. The last election that he came, there was no freedom. The opposition were not allowed to do their thing. Don't you see what he got? Almost 99% of the vote cast. The opposition were subdued. They were hammered down. They were not allowed to. They were not given access to even campaign in Rwanda, in spite of the administrative brilliance, in spite of the leadership acumen that Kagame has displayed.
Okay. So, all right. So our viewers out there this afternoon, to further explain what we are looking at on the show today, let us just maybe give a clearer definition of the concepts of what we are looking at. Talking about human rights as a concept. Now, we've got different explanation, different dictionary meanings to it. For example, we have human rights. It includes the right to life, the right to liberty, rights to freedom from slavery and torture, rights to freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and so much more. So that's rights that you have as an individual: right to life, right to freedom, right to association, right to education, even rights to the food that you put in your mouth is known as human rights. So that's what we're looking at today on the continent of Africa. Africa as a continent. So we're going to be looking at some of the challenges and ways that we can actually come against these challenges, because we've seen that some of the leaders, just like what Nowita Egbutako is saying now, that in Rwanda, even if Paul Kagame is recognized as one of the best leaders that Africa has produced, but when it comes to human rights record, Paul Kagame may not be getting it correctly. Those have been a lot of ways that people have described Paul Kagame. Now, Nowita Egbutako, the challenge to human rights issues on the continent of Africa is something that you cannot really pinpoint, because when you tend to look at it, they seem political. Do you understand? I mean, in the sense that a situation whereby you see our leaders, what they are supposed to do for citizens, they don't do it. All these are challenges to human rights, as it were, in Africa. You want to speak on that?
Yeah, you have just spoken it. You have just talked about this, the basic concept of human rights. Right to shelter, right to education, right to social amenities, right to migrate, right to,
right to freedom.
To freedom, to protest. Right to carry placard. It's a right. Social right, economic right, political right. But unfortunately, because of bad leadership, because most African leaders are dictators, They don't believe in bringing development to their people. And automatically, what do you expect? They trample on people's rights. The other day, some people protested in Abuja about bad governance, end bad governance the other day. Some of them were just hooden into prisons without going to the process of rule of law and things like that. And some of us are still shouting that the Tinubu and his crony should not reduce these people. They have the right to protest legitimately because things, are not going well for the citizenry. The people did not just come out because they wanted to come out. They came out because they are being choked. The system is choking them. They are not, functioning properly. So they have the right to protest and what have you. So, for example, the Tinubu government did not able to Nigerian protesters well during the last protest. Some of them are still in prison.
But we must also look at the ways that some people protest because one thing that seems to be common with African protesters is this tendency for them to go, even if...
Go violence.
Yes, go violence. Even if we are saying that you have the right to protest. But again, we should also mention here on this program that there are laws, there are rules and laws of engagement. There are guidelines.
Though I will not support, like when we come out, let me give you an example. In 1998, during the Abacha must go era, I was chairman committee for the Defense of Human Rights at those states, CDHR. Those who know me, who know CDHR, you know what I'm talking about. June 1998. When we came out, we brought the coffin for the president along to the Lagos Road. I was quite younger than this. I was chairman.
Yeah.
I led that campaign. When we got to 5 Junction, somebody came. The journalists, some of them were around. They came to monitor. That time, Abacha has virtually, put this culture of fear in people.
Restricting
extremely
protestation.
If you protest, you are dead. So, but we came out. So as we came out, one of our boys, some students from Uniben that time, they came to me and said, Chairman, that is a police vehicle. A police vehicle was at the 5 Junction. They said, should we set it ablaze? I said, no. We are not here to go violence. We are here for a purpose. We are here to protest against the evil regime of General Sani Abacha, not to destroy government property. I did that. Yeah. So we don't subscribe to violence. But those who subscribe to violence, I think they should face the law. That is my position. That day, it was easy. We had petrol, we have those things. They would have just put the thing, somebody would not light cigarette inside the tank. The police vehicle would have gone. But I did not do that because we had a focus. We are not, I will not put it. We are not terrorists. We are human rights activists. We are not anarchists. That's the word. We are not anarchists. So we don't subscribe to violence. But in the Nigerian context, and what you see in most countries of Africa, even people who are peaceful,
talk about their
who even come out peacefully, they still harass them and torment them. The other day, Sowore was coming from the United States. Sowore, the other guy, ADC, African Democratic Party, innocent, peaceful guy. The overzealous SSS people, they went there,
he was apprehended.
Yeah. They were taken away. Only for the guys on ground say, man, you cannot take this guy away. That's what we call abuse of fundamental human rights.
But again,
so Sowore came to, they did set bonfire anywhere in Lagos.
No, he didn't do that.
So what I'm saying is that there could be overzealousness, and overzealousness is being encouraged by the political leaders. They give them orders, they squeeze them, mess them up, put instill fear in them. But that is not the way it's supposed to go.
Okay. Now, let us look at it in a different way now, because some persons, trying to really understand the situation. When we talk about human rights activism in Africa, it seems that some people cannot really draw the thin line between human rights activism and political reactions. So what I mean by political reactions now, well, I know that people will always react when government policies and programs are not okay for them. But what we've seen recently, I mean, it happened in Kenya, whereby taxes rates were increased and all that. Now, rather than for us to have protesters to protest against that policy, we had a situation whereby people went about destroying government properties, you know. Then at the end of the day, the Kenyan government now said that those guys were being used as political tools. What I'm trying to say is that very recently, we've seen a situation whereby it looks as if human rights activism, agitations by human rights activists, is now taking a political dimension.
Why will it not take political dimension? Man is a political animal. And the policies of the government of the day affect most of the things government do. They are political actions.
Yeah, if it's beginning to take political dimension, then it means that the struggle is being lost.
When you say political dimension, in what context?
Are
you saying people are now mixing politics with human rights activism?
We've seen a situation whereby some human rights organizations, they act more or less like political organizations, like political parties.
Maybe you have to cite an example, because what we do at our level, and Nigeria Good Governance Research Council, you know, NDGC, what we do as a human rights, as a civil rights organization, as a conflict resolution expert, we look at government, we look at bad policies, and provide solutions. We do critique. I am not a politician, but I will not say some people are not using their human rights for political gains. I will not say that. It's a fact. Some people use their political whatever engagement, using it, you know, using the platform of human rights as a package to do their political thing. You are very correct. But essentially, there are some of us who are focused, who are looking at the people, who say this is how it should be. I am not a politician by any standard. So I'm a civil society activist, and I am a professional conflict resolution expert, and we do our things. And when we engage government, when government policy is going against the people, we say government don't go there, we should go here. And this how to go. We propose solutions. And as I say, we are not anarchists. The other day, we tried to respond to the political reality in Edo State. Somebody who saw our release said, why are we reacting? That what is happening has happened before. But I said, we must react. We are political animals. I'm not a politician. I don't lick the saw. I don't lick the saw of politics. By God's grace, God has given us brains to be able to take care of our families. So we address issue fundamentally. We address issue is based on issues, you know. So and that's that's how we go. So I'm speaking for myself. Correct that some people are using it as a package for political. That's what we call political activism. We call political activism, but you cannot equate political activism with human rights activism. They are two different things. Okay. Maybe the light of Dino Melaye can call him a political activist. It's not a human rights activist. We have to draw the line. Okay. So we are called human rights activists. You know, we steadily we look at issues and tell government where to go. This is not the way to go. We are very critical. I am a critic, you know. So, and because in a society where you don't have critics, in a society where you don't have people who have taken upon themselves to speak through to power.
To check and balance.
To check and balance, that society is doomed. How can we have a government and everybody say, yes, sir? That government is doomed. So people are bound to speak up. People are bound to go out of their own evaluation, out of their own convenience. It is not convenient to be a human rights activist in Nigeria. There's a lot of sacrifice, apart from the brains that we put into press releases and organization and the rest. So it's a decision some people have taken on behalf of Nigerian people, on behalf of our people, and we're happy doing it. And so viewers should not confuse political activism.
With human rights activism.
With human rights activism.
Okay.
There are two different lines. So some people do political I don't want to say a typical example. People like Dino Melaye, maybe Ayo Fayose, some of these guys who have some political scores to settle. You see them engage in some activism. They are different from us.
Okay. All right, so the program is still Africa Discourse on independent television. Now, there are issues that are naturally, let me not say naturally now. I mean, we started off by saying that human rights as a kind of an issue that is embedded in the United Nations.
Yeah, it started.
It started from the
cradle.
Yes,
yeah.
but we've seen a situation very recently because we are looking at the challenges of human rights activism and, of course, ways we can handle these challenges so that we can also look at the prospect. Now, we've seen a situation very recently whereby some issues became very, very glaring, that these were human rights violations. I mean, take, for example, some countries that we had some maybe wars or civil rights.
That what is happening in the Middle East?
No, that is even too far. We saw that, like what is happening in Sudan. As we speak now, it's happening in Sudan, whereby some humanitarian aids were even prevented from reaching the target people and all that. Now, the United Nations is there. So my question is, if we say that human rights is an offshoot of the United Nations organization, now what is the United Nations doing in this regard when we have issues very glaring that, look, these are human rights issues? United Nations is not doing anything about it.
Well, you will not say United Nations don't do anything about it. Because the organs of United Nations that handle there's Human Rights Commission for Africa.
Human rights violations.
There are several, organizations, sub-organizations even within the United Nations that handle. There's a Human Rights Commission for Africa and things like that. But when you have
a
situation,
perhaps we may have to stretch it.
In a theater of war.
Yeah.
Because you are talking of Sudan. We are talking in a theater of war. When there's a war situation, anything could happen.
That may not be correct. That may not be correct because even in war situation, we understand that there are rules.
There are rules. I'm saying when I say anything could happen is that people are ready to violate the rules.
That's exactly the problem.
Okay.
Now, what is United Nations doing?
For instance, in Lebanon now, when Israeli, soldiers invaded Lebanon, whether mistakenly, whether it was deliberate, the human rights peacekeeping forces in South Lebanon, they were attacked, and they be complaining.
What did the United Nations do?
They are talking, they're already condemning, they're already saying this and so. In a theater of war, it's like a chaotic situation. So there are some leaders who deliberately want to undo certain things for their own selfish reasons. Why would Israeli soldiers, why would they be indiscriminate? Why would they go to United Nations keeping forces? Is that what they decided to go and do in South Lebanon? So
even in Nigeria, it happened here. The EndSARS protests. The allegations of how some Nigerians were shot.
They were shot, not the allegations. At Lekki Beach.
The allegations now. The allegations now.
Yeah,
now,
it was real.
Nigeria is a member of the United Nations. The UN did not do anything in that regard. The government was not held accountable. We didn't see sanction and all that. That's my question.
You see, when you have defiant, we have leaders who don't give a hoot about human rights. That's what you get. Like under Buhari, was Muhammadu Buhari, it happened under his regime.
But we let us be careful with that now.
Buhari was president when there was Lekki massacre. They were covering up the thing and they were denying that it did not happen. It did not happen. But we saw what happened. People were thrown across the lagoon. The soldiers came very early, they claimed the bloodshed and things like that.
And the UN did not do anything.
UN, what could UN do than to issue a statement and condemn? United Nations cannot, because of violation of human rights, and invade the country. You know, so the worst they could do is bring sanctions. Sanctions. If there's a gross case of human rights abuse, and they are talking to a particular country, and the country is not, they can bring sanctions.
Okay. You know, given the fact that human rights is embedded in the
charter,
that's
set of United Nations.
It is even too far to mention United Nations. Let us come down to Africa. African Union is also there. We understand that
Africa has its own version of human rights.
Human rights is also embedded in the charter of African Union.
African Union.
But we've seen the situation whereby there's a widespread disrespect for human rights and all that, and the African Union is not doing anything. I want to speak on it too.
African Union is a toothless bulldog.
Really?
Yeah, because most of the countries that populate the African Union, most of them are there for self-preservation.
But let us be careful with the way you say African Union is a toothless
bulldog. When you have a documentation, you have article for human rights. They are all stated there: socio-economic rights, fundamental human rights, right to this. But when those rights are violated, the chairman of AU will not talk. The Secretary General will not talk. Then, is that not toothless arrangement? That's toothless bulldog. Those are what we're talking about United Nations. That's what the United Nations could do, is to bring sanction. Or if a particular government is not doing what they expect to do, is to try and find they can remove such government and put a puppet. You know what I'm trying to say? So the issue is very clear. You have a situation whereby most of the African leaders, they are not pro-people. Most of them, they don't believe in the people. That is the sad situation. Most African governments, they don't believe in the people. They don't believe in fundamental human rights because they believe in divide and rule. They believe that the best way to preserve their power is to subdue the people. And most of these people are members of AU. So most of these arrangements, most of these charter, most of these conventions, for me, they are just paper tagarism. If you ask me, paper tagarism. They are just on paper. You become a tiger on paper. But there's no machinery to meet up, to follow up with those paper documentation. That is sad reality. You don't say that during Lekki massacre, you say, what did the United Nations do to a Buhari government, for instance? They just condemned the government.
It was an allegation. That's the way.
But they denied the government was covering up. That's what we see in most capitals in Africa, even in most capitals in the world. When there are issues of human rights abuse, government will just come up and say that is not the situation. Even with glaring evidence of people being clubs, people being killed,
their rights being violated
even on television and things like that. They also have a way of, coming out with a statement that we didn't do this, we didn't do that. That is the sad reality about, the human rights situation in Africa and globally. So, and we don't have leaders.
So, if this is the case now, are there prospects, human rights activism and all that, are there prospects in it?
There are prospects because some of us decide not to keep quiet.
Oh, that's the prospects?
Yeah. That when the right leadership come on board, there will be cases of reduction of human rights abuses. We have a pro-people leadership. Who is pro-people? A leadership that does not believe in self-preservation. A leadership that does not believe in me and myself and my family. A popular government. A popular government will not abuse people's rights now. You understand?
Yeah.
A popular government will not abuse people's rights. It is government that try to rule with force. Dictatorship, totalitarianism. Those are the government that infringes on people's rights. So the struggle continues. When it's prosper, they are prosper. We continue to demand for good governance. Because that's one of the things we do at the level of human rights activism. Demand for good governance. Let the right thing be done. Let the right law take its course. Let people have access to shelter, to economic right, to employment and things like that. So that's prosperity. If there's no prosperity, then society is doomed.
Now,
it is part of fighting for activism that you see what has happened to the wages in Nigeria. It's ridiculous, 70,000 minimum wage. It's ridiculous. But before, it was even 30,000. So they are prosperous. People are struggling. People are talking. And people are engaging government. And if you don't engage government, what do you want to do? That's, as I said, that society is doomed. Now, because that government will bear its fangs the more. And not to claw the people into submission. So we must go to, like some of us, Nigerian Good Governance for Research Center, we talk every week. We come out with releases. We come out with suggestions. We come out with where to go. If you look at this, say internet, you see some of our work. We come out frontally. We talk to government. We talk through to power. This has to go. Do the electoral process. Let the right thing be done. So they are prospects.
Now, before we continue one more time, how would you want to describe the knowledge of Africans, in relationship to this human rights that we're talking about now? Now, do you think that that most Africans even know their rights?
Sadly, most people don't know their rights. That's why some of us are trying to educate. Education is an issue. Most people don't know their rights. Most people are cowered into silence. Most people, the basic right, they don't even know. To confront government, to confront institutions. The ability to be literate enough to quote certain facts, certain clauses embedded in the African Human Rights Charter, in the United Nations Human Rights Charter. Like what you have the United Nations Human Rights Council, for instance. Their charter, their documentation, their clauses.
The items are there.
Items are there. Like what is the role of United Nations Human Rights Council? It's for them to look at sports all over the world. Where human rights are being violated. Then they draw the attention of United Nations.
Now, the reason why I'm asking that question, because we've seen recently whereby you have some persons protest the policies of government. Then in the same vein, you also have anti-protesters coming up. So you now ask the question now, because we're talking about welfareism here. I mean, what the protesters are talking about is for the good of the public. But you also have other anti-protesters.
You have paid agents. Paid agents. People who are beclouded with poverty. People who are being impoverished. Do you know people are selling their children for money, to eat, to eat now? Look at what is happening in Nigeria, for instance. The other day, my children said some people came to the market, we have a shop somewhere. A grown-up man came and started begging food in the market. That kind of fellow, if a government of the day say, come and take 50,000, 50,000 is even too much. 10,000. On the election day, during the election, electionary day, people collect pittance because of poverty. Poverty is the issue. So they don't use them, they get their pittance, and they forget about future, they forget about tomorrow. They don't know their rights. Survival is an issue. Evan, survivor. That is why you see some people getting under the Tinubu government. Is it not funny? In spite of the mess that we are.
Let us be careful with that now.
We're in a mess.
But
because never before in Nigerian history are we buying for more than 1,000 naira. It is incomprehensible.
1,300 naira.
You cannot imagine it. For me, it is insanity of the highest level. In a country where we have oil in our soil, a kaba in the country, they are managing our oil and impoverishing the people. Then some Nigerians will still carry placard and support such government, you know something is wrong with such persons. Poverty unlimited. They don't care. They want to survive the next. They will call existentialism.
Now, in the light of
They want to succeed.
Yeah, in the light of
so that's why. Is it clear now?
Yeah,
that's why they do that. Survivor.
Yeah.
Me, you cannot come and tell no winter now say. And we have told our children, tell people who are close to us, these are the basic things. Don't let people buy your tomorrow. Don't let people buy your future. You know. So, and when it's about prosper for human rights, that's what people. Sometimes people call us. They say, "We like that your release. We like what you are doing." People talk to me. People send messages to us. It lifts people's soul. Because when some of us are not around, my brother, then we are under a dungeon, imprisonment. Don't you know this statement, this talk, this thing? It lifts people's soul. Hope.
It educates people too.
Yeah. So people call us, they send us text messages. The other day, somebody saw what I wrote somewhere, just send a small dollar across. Say, man, use that to buy fuel. So they are prospect. Because without human rights activists, without activism, that country is doomed. We must continue to talk. We must continue to engage government, no matter how bad it is. So before God has done it, we will not go cap in hand. We go and beg our enemies. God forbid. God has done it. Go cap in hand to say, give us a cup of rice there. So as long as some of us are around by God's grace, we're going to speak truth to power. Okay. No matter the circumstance. Now, it's a decision we have taken.
Yeah, a while ago, we were trying to look at the United Nations. We were also trying to say that the United Nations seems to be turning its eyes away from when situations whereby human rights, there are human rights violations. The UN is supposed to come in and act, but we've seen very,
it's more of paper tagarism.
Very clear.
It's more of talk.
You know, like what happened in Nigeria in the NSAS.
Because at the end of the day, we come out with propaganda, with lies.
Yeah, but my question is, how do we now begin to get it right? What should we be do? I mean, what should we do as Africans, as citizens of countries in Africa, so that the governments should know that, hey, these are human rights issues. You don't trample on human rights issues. What should we do?
We continue to talk. We're going to expose them. You know,
expose bad policies,
and
governance.
Bad governance with facts and figures. We engage them. You know, there's an issue that came out the other day, not quite long ago, and we had the information, and we came out with a release. We don't like what this guy is doing. We don't like what this fellow is doing, because we have the documentary, and we did our investigations. So we continue to talk. Because a society that refuses to talk, a society that refuses to advocate, to demand for justice, freedom, and human rights, that society is doomed. So, and Nigerians are trying. Nevertheless, we are political activists who want to confuse people, just as we said earlier. They say they are human rights
activists. They are political activists.
They are after their stomach infrastructure. Yeah. I dare to say on here, I've never had government position. I've never given a special advisor on this and that. I say it on here, I dare. So what I have today, by God's grace, is my brain. So we can address issues, and we're going to address issues. We're paying our school fees, we're doing that. To God be the glory. So what should we do? We're going to agitate, we're going to demand, for instance, the issue of the electoral process. It's a fundamental human right. For people to vote and for their vote to be counted. My brother, it's an issue.
Yeah, and also it is also an issue that for people to vote, but we find out that some people don't vote.
So it's apathy now.
Yeah. So
when people have seen severally, my brother, after the last general elections, in Edo State, for instance, some people told us, it's quite unfortunate. It is tragic.
Yeah, but
if somebody was telling me, a colleague, he said one or two of his children who are above 18 came. He said, Daddy, with what we saw during the general elections, I will not vote again.
Yeah, but
it's so sad.
Yeah, but that is only your own opinion. Some other person.
No, somebody said that because of the level of bastardization, because of the level of malpractices, the level of manipulations that took place, when people will not follow the law, they will not follow the due process, they will not follow what is in the electoral heart. So these are challenges. Just like the heart of living. You live, you wake up, you eat and eat, you do your things. Human rights, we hit it. Human rights is an issue. What do you demand for human rights? So I challenge Nigerians, I challenge Africans, that we should not allow any brutal dictator, no matter the level of dictatorship, whether that his nursery is coming out, there's fire coming out from his nursery, confront such dictatorship, because that is the best bet for tomorrow. So, like what is happening in Nigeria, we have decided not to keep quiet. We decided to engage government steadily. And that's how it should be. Yeah. So people should not be coerced. People should not be intimidated. That's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah. Africans and Nigerians must advocate for good governance, because there's no alternative. The alternative we have is not good for us. The alternative we have is a bubble. I call it a bubble. The democracy we have is not democracy, because democracy does not take the people into reckoning. At the end of the day, it's not the people's choice that emerges after a crucial thing. That's why we're advocating. We're demanding for the right to be done. The electoral process will be sanitized.
All right, so
in Nigerian context, for instance.
Yeah, just as we wrap it up now, about some few hours ago, it became news how allegations, though, now that Nigeria was snubbed at the last election. That's the Human Rights Council with the United Nations. That Nigeria did not make it. You know, it is something that comes up every 3 years, whereby the United Nations Human Rights Council has about 48 members. So every 3 years, that council renews its membership. But this last one that was done, Nigeria did not make it. A lot of persons have said so many things about it until the spokesman to the presidency had to refute what people have been saying. The allegations that Nigeria was snubbed, you know, trying to tie to what some persons say it is probably due to bad governance, you know, in Nigeria. No, let's wrap it up with that.
Nigeria was snubbed. Nigeria.
That's the way. That's the way you.
It's my position. My hypnosis on Nigeria not making it to United Nations Security Council is clear. The hypnosis is very clear.
Human Rights Council, not Security Council.
Sorry, Human Rights Council. Nigeria was snubbed because Nigeria has a very bad record of human rights.
Oh, really?
We don't talk about
NSAS protest.
NSAS protest. So about what happened at Lekki under a Muhammadu Buhari
presidency.
Under Buhari presidency. And we don't see some of the things that happened during the last end bad governance. So what are we talking about? Nigeria do not deserve a spot on the United Nations Human Rights Council.
Yeah, but one thing that also came out, because I've seen some of the
countries, it's a block.
Some of the countries.
There's a caucus that arranged the...
yeah, some of the countries that made it in this last election, I've seen them now. They also have their issues. So it is not as if maybe it's only in Nigeria that we have it, you know, the human rights issues. I mean, take a country like Kenya. Kenya has its issues too. So what do we say about that?
Well, for me, that's where imperialism comes in. I'm an expert in conflict resolution. Yes, imperialism is real. Neocolonialism is real. So they bring these facades to play. Sometimes, in the national interest of these superpowers, they don't look at human rights. Am I answering your questions? In their calculation, in their calculative human national interest, they put human rights aside. Hey, what do you have there? That's the reality at the international circles.
And all still boils down to the Western power.
Yes, imperialism is real. It's a potent evil.
And Africa
that's working against Africa and Africa. You just said it. Even the last, some of the countries that did not make it, Cameroon. Cameroon was part of the country that did not make it. They were part of the human rights. What was Cameroon doing in that place? With Pobia. We know Pompey has record in Yaoundé. Yeah. So answer your questions. Yeah. Imperialism, neo-colonialism.
They are real.
They are real. They are the one manipulating international circle to their own advantage. Sometimes they close their eyes. So that they have closed their eyes to this guy in Rwanda.
Paul Kagame.
I think it's very clear.
And
it's part of the bad record of
he's still popular.
Yeah. At least the guy is doing fantastically. Unlike most African leaders that are tyrants. Most African leaders, they are tyrants. Dictators of the highest level, who do not reckon with the people.
Why don't you say?
Who believe in self-preservation. Is it not self-preservation that Nigerian petroleum industry is not working?
Anyway, you know, which we may have to.
Is it not self-preservation? I mean, you want to dodge the matter.
No, because of time, we have to end the discussion.
So
yeah,
we call for good governance any day, any time, and people should not be intimidated at any point, anywhere in Africa.
All right, so viewers out there, one more time, we need to let you know that these rights are there. You must know them as citizens of countries in Africa. Rights to life, rights to association, rights to freedom, general freedom, rights to vote. You must know that. Rights to exercise your franchise is your basic fundamental human right. So before you accuse any government of taking your rights from you, you must ask yourself the question, do you at all times also exercise this right? I mean, imagine a situation whereby during an election, you don't go out to exercise the right, and it shows that you are not even ready, let alone trying to accuse any government of not giving you the right. So I want to say thank you one more time,
it's a pleasure,
for finding time to come on the show today.
Thank you.
So that's the program today, Africa Discourse on Independent Television. Until the same time and next week, my name is Evans Sunohuge. Goodbye and God bless you.